Welcome to the Story in Your Head podcast. Today we have the honor of having our guest, Mike Ungaro, who is the CEO of San Pedro Fish Market. Mike, could you give a short introduction of who you are?
Sure. My name's Mike Ungaro, as you spoke. Married to Anita, or I think we're in year 26, with three adult daughters that are doing quite well. And I hold the role of CEO in our family business, which my grandfather started. I think it's been 66 or 67 years now. We started as a small corner shop, about 200 square feet, selling seafood to the locals. And in the last decades, mostly I'd say in the last 12 years, we've grown to be one of the largest. I think actually what I read was we were the third highest grossing independently owned restaurant in the country. And we're continuing to grow and innovate, and we're still family owned and operated, focus on more on family owned, finding new operators, and we're doing really well. That's me.
That's great, Mike. Today we wanted to talk a little bit about culture. And I'm curious, what does culture mean to you? What does business culture mean to you?
Oh, it's great. As my daughters are moving into their professional lives and I'm listening to them come home and talk about the interaction they have in their jobs, I've one that loves the work, has a lot of issues on occasion with people she works with. And it reminded me of when I'd left the family business. Worked in banking, worked in insurance. And one of the memories that came back to me was the insurance company I worked with right out of college. Somebody died in their bed and somebody else went out on a stretcher. And people just kind of went along like, oof, that's rough. And I'm like, that's not the culture I want to be in. It's not the narrative or stories of a happy life to me. And I had to sort of beg my dad, I know you paid for me to go to college and have a career, but this whole cubicle thing's not working out so well for me. And I think what I've been sort of hit with recently and reflecting on that is, culture is someplace where it sets the mood, the stories, all the traditions, what's accepted and not accepted in the place that you work. And with some of the challenges that we've had most recently this year, occurred to me, do I need to go back into that cubicle setting and work for someone else? You're playing all these different scenarios in your head, and the idea of that culture and not being able to affect it, hit me. Or I'm in a place and as a CEO where I can set the culture and really help to develop it and speak what it should be and have an effect. And I think I kind of took that for granted until I was faced with the idea or the possibility that I would be and have to go find another culture to work in and deal with that. That helpful?
Yeah, great. Thank you.
So, Mike, what was the culture like when you were growing up around San Pedro Fish Market? What was the culture of the company at that time?
I would say predominantly what I always noticed was just work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard. There wasn't a space to contribute. I want to say that, and I've noticed that even up till now, people are scared to speak ideas. And that's the culture that I've worked to change. Because when I was younger, it was just show up, work really, really hard like a machine. And then maybe when your shift's over, maybe you can go home. It just depends on if we still need you or not. And I was starting at age 12 for me. It's really very now in one ways, I think it's helped not just me, but a lot of the people that work for us, thousands and thousands of people. A lot of them, I don't keep in touch with thousands, but I've had a lot come back to me saying, that made such a big difference in my life. The work ethic was like being in the military, because some of these people that go into military and they go to work for the police department, and that work ethic actually helped them. But I don't know if it made them satisfied or happy. They saw where it helped them in their career to be competitive and get the roles that they wanted. But I didn't ever hear that they were satisfied. They were thankful, I would say. I don't know if they were satisfied. That kind of stuck with me. There was one in particular who went into LAPD internal affairs. He left. He went to work as a salesperson in a company that we buy our alcohol from, and then he ended up in law enforcement. And he's happy. He's done really well. As far as my conversations with him, but he would tell me if it wasn't for that culture of hard work, show up, work hard, work hard, work hard, I don't know that I would have had a narrative around where I ended up in my career. And the other thing I noticed relative to that, which I'll always remember, I left to go work as a bank teller at one point, like that when I was in college. My dad's like, go do something else with your life. See what's out there. Bye. So I went to work as a bank teller. And I'll remember my very, very first day, we had nameplates, and what happened is when you got in, you went to grab one of I forgot what they're called, and you slide your name, placard, I guess, right? And on the back of them was written the times for lunches and breaks. So if you were late, you ended up with the worst times. Like you're going to lunch at 2:00 in the afternoon and you're going to get a break at 5:00, right before we close. So because they had the stagger. So the goal was to get in there and get early, get the good one. And I was training with somebody and they were like, well, it's time for our break. We get a 15-minute break. I don't need a break. I never had a break. I didn't even know what a lunch was. Like we just worked, right? And they were really like, shut up. You're going to ruin it for all of us. We got to keep our breaks and keep our lunches. And I noticed at that point, I was like, wow, I guess this is how it's done everywhere else. But I was bored. Like I knew I could do more because I spent so much time laboring. I had become like a machine. And I was kind of like, you eventually go towards, I'll take the rest and the time off. And I want to know what everyone's laughing about.
So I think, Mike, you've talked about the rigor, the discipline that comes with that, in that space. Like, what is some of the weaknesses of that kind of culture? Like, you had strengths. What is the weakness?
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, what's happened that I've noticed now, being 50, I want to be 53 this year, I've noticed it doesn't get you far enough to be satisfied. So in other words, what I'm seeing now are younger people come in that work harder, which it actually is becoming less common. But hard work isn't enough at a certain point. Like you're older and you're tired. We have employees actually that have worked for us that we've had to make like really difficult decisions about because they're in their 50s and 60s and they want to still work hard, but physically they really can't. Like they'll come to. We had one person that came to work and was clearly having health issues. You need to go to the hospital. And they refused, and they kept coming back. They were having a stroke, but they didn't want to go to the hospital and be told what to do and take medication. They just figure I'll work through it. So I think that where the detriment to that is hard work just solves everything. And there's a certain facticity about how our biology works and our bodies work and they age. And if you're not respectful of that, then you have a bad ending. And he didn't die, but he didn't do well. And eventually we just had to say, hey, we just can't have you work here anymore. You're handling knives and power tools and bandsaws and you're having a stroke. You can't go. It's time to retire. But he wasn't prepared to retire. And I've seen different versions of that now with these longer-term employees that have been with us. So you want to have a certain amount of loyalty and you want to help them out, but they don't know how to accept the help, for one. There's an idea that, well, I worked really, really, really hard, so aren't you going to just pay for my retirement? Well, that was never part of the deal. We couldn't afford to do that. That's why we set up retirement funds and things. But so it's hard to watch people that you care for and respect not be prepared to transition out of labor at a certain age. It's really hard.
Yeah, I was really triggered to think about. You've used the word twice now, satisfaction. You used it in terms of yourself, and you used it in terms of your employees. And I'm curious, like why does that matter?
Well, what I'm finding is everybody has a different story about what that means. And it's important that you know what that means for different people, because if they're not satisfied, I think that leads to, just a lack of happiness. We have some people that just tell me what to do. Oh, I did what you told me. Didn't I do a good job? And they're looking to produce satisfaction by us, essentially patting them on the back or telling them they did a good job or believe. And really, it comes down to believing in them is what I'm finding. But what I notice is the story isn't very deep. If it's very surface level, like I just want to check off the boxes. I'm satisfied that I did that. I expect you're going to tell me that you're satisfied and we can all go on to the next day and do it again. there's some advantages to that when you're running a business, but it's hard to grow and keep up with competition that way. The other thing I'd say, like the way I hold satisfaction is there's another way to look at it. It's like, it doesn't matter what anyone says. Did they show up to work the next day? Like, I don't know that that's the way I'm comfortable with, because you can show up like, well, I'm satisfied you're paying me, but I really want to go above and beyond, which is just getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
So people feel involved. I think satisfaction could be deeper. It could be more about, I contributed and I made a difference and I was recognized. And I feel like I'm valued that way.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Mike, what is one of the accomplishments in the domain of culture that you have created since becoming a CEO?
It was hard to see for me, because as I was working or moving to introduce different ways to think and act together for our business, our culture was really based on family. We're family first. Not everybody wants to work in a family, but it's still one of our core values because it's really deep in us. And we find there are a lot of people that have been with us for a long time that I feel like I'm family. There's some people that we've had to let go that are offended. Like, how could you let me go? I thought we were family. And so it's a challenging distinction, but at our core, we are a family business. What I've been working on the shift there is to be more, think about it more as a professionally run, and I forgot how I phrase it. I'm sorry. Family-owned professional organization, because I think there's the two have to sort of balance. Where this showed up as being raw, like that, to get the point out of that question, where it started to show up that I was a little bit successful is when we dealt with crises, because we've had two crises. We've had one with pandemic, which was, oh my God, what do? We can't operate. And then we recently had to deal with leaving our buildings to make room for the redevelopment of the waterfront where our legacy locations are, which has been like a 12-year back and forth. Do we have to leave? Do we not have to leave? We have to leave. Well, when those eviction notices came down, just like when the pandemic rulings came down, what I noticed was that the core values, and I was just speaking this on a recording to the staff, of leadership, passion, and family, or leadership, family, passion, I guess is the order we're having in, is that producing those as a group on our leadership team, what those core values are, defining them and then speaking them recurrently, and then putting structures in place for people to actually work and move with them. One being your method, Ron, back to the Macklin method. And also EOS was another one we used, and then there's some others I've studied. Everybody sort of jumped into the boat together for the first time and rowed in the same direction. That's the culture.
Wow. Yeah, that's the culture everybody wants, right?
Yeah. Now, what I'm noticing now, and this happened last time, is as the crisis sort of fades and we think we got past it, everybody, it's funny, I thought everyone was going to, the way I held it was, it appeared as people were rowing in different directions in the same boat. And I realized that there might be a little bit of that, but I think what's really happening is everybody jumped back in their own boat. And they may all be going in the same direction, but they're not helping one another row, right? And that's like a big issue, because, hey, look, I'm rowing fast. Like, yeah, you're not supposed to be competing against, you're supposed to be helping one another. It's like, well, stay out of my boat and just tell me I got where I needed to go, and stop trying to put a hole in it. And so it's weird, because we're after the same goal. And I'm noticing is that not everybody is trying to achieve it in the same way as a team. It's more like become an individual sport, but they're on the same team. Does that make sense? I tried that a couple of days ago. I'm like, oh, that's what's happening.
Got it. Great noticing. Like, if you could look out in 5 years, which means you're through your temporary stuff, you're now in your places, you've got whatever you're going to do. What does your culture look like then? And you could use the magic wand method. Like, if you had a magic wand, what would it look like?
Yeah.
But like, what would that look like? Describe that for us.
To answer your question, if I had a magic wand and I could set what the culture would look like in, just say 5 or 10 years, or
just say 5 years.
5 years. I would have every role in the company, every seat in the company held by somebody who has a list of accomplishments in that area that are uncommon and competitive. Like, in other words, I would say if you're going to have operations is a big thing on the restaurant side. We're pretty good at operating the restaurant the way we operate it, but it's not necessarily in the domain of restaurants. We don't have the same standard practices. We're building that. So I would have the culture be where the people that are sitting in those seats, they're either extremely accomplished at what they do, or they're open to learning and asking for teachers that can to get them there. And every place in the company, like, no more rowing your own boat, no more rowing against the other ones. Everybody's in the same boat after the same common goal. And the idea is that where the culture isn't about restaurants anymore, it's about building the San Pedro Fish Market brand, and it's a brand that everybody can be proud of and feel like they contributed.
Thanks, Mike. Before we go on to, I got other questions too. I'm sure Deb does as well. What is the San Pedro Fish Market brand?
The brand. Oh yeah. So that's great. I just started working with a company to help us build out our retail, and they were asking a lot about this actually yesterday. Mike Moore and I were working on this as a project for a long time. And Mike reminded me, Mike's, for background, Mike's been with the company his whole life, and his, our founder is essentially like his stepdad. So for listeners, Mike reminded me of a story someone told us years ago. It was a business professional out of Mexico that we had met, because our client base is predominantly Latino and the majority are from Mexican background. And he goes, when you live and grow up in Mexico, you can't really move up. You're either making $40 a week or you're rich. Like, there's no middle class. So when people find a way to move to this country, move to the United States and start a new life, they can earn $40 an hour sometimes, and blue labor work. And what San Pedro Fish Market means to those people is it's an example or a demonstration of what it means to achieve the American dream. So everybody in the family has a job, they're getting an education, they have a home to live in, they go to church on Sunday, and then whatever money's left over that didn't go to paying for that lifestyle and paying for their commitments, they come to San Pedro Fish Market and buy things they could never afford at the country they left. Lobster, king crab, 32-ounce beers. And it's a celebration of the sacrifice they made to move to a new country. And I forgot about that narrative for a while and how powerful it was, because I wasn't holding it that way. And I think what our brand is it's about family. It's about celebration. I held that part of it, but I forgot how deep it is in multi-generations, because we're seeing, customers that come in and they say, I used to come here with my parents, and now I'm here with my kids and my parents. So I want them to all have this tradition, have this experience. And, I think as human beings, we grow up sharing food with the people we love. You're all around the dinner table and you're sharing stories. And what we do is we provide a place for people to share food, because our food is mostly family style, and build memories that last and live on. So that's what I see the brand as being. It's a place where people can celebrate food, celebrate family, and build new memories that carry on, and stories that they can share.
That's great, Mike. And I can say I've built my own memories there because it really is fantastic. Something different than I've ever been to before. So thank you for that.
Mm.
I have another question about culture, because you mentioned there were some things that you put in place. You talked about EOS. You talked about the Macklin method. And I'm interested to hear, what did that change?
Really?
What part of your culture? What did that influence in your culture?
Yeah, that's great. There's a lot there. I want to keep it super simple. I think it came down to trust was the primary thing, and it's still a big issue. Like, I've noticed since we've had to deal with this moving out of the buildings thing, or the last crisis, we had to let a lot of these methodologies and practices kind of pushed aside to just do what we have to do to survive. And now 2-3 months later, I'm seeing that practices, the methodologies, they're fading away, and it's a problem, because you're going right back to rowing in your own boat again, and sometimes rowing against each other. So what was great, what I noticed was it gave, while working Macklin with you all, I think one of the biggest noticings for me was people started to feel like they could be heard, like they had a voice in the company. They had a way to communicate without being afraid. I mean, probably still afraid, but they could see how it could be done more effectively. They saw how there was, like, I listened to stories about people saying, this didn't just make me more effective in my leadership role at work, it saved my marriage because I didn't realize how I was speaking to people at home and my wife. So that was good. Now, where that was really helpful to have, and I purposely had work, Ron, y'all in at the same time I was working EOS because I didn't see how EOS could work as a structure, the way, like, to reorganize the way we interacted and kind of build a structure to make it effective if people weren't willing to talk to one another, didn't trust one another. I just saw, like, you needed a foundation first. And to me, the foundation was going to be that people believed in one another, they trusted one another, they were open to being vulnerable and authentic and moving forward. And that's what I'm seeing happen.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. How you triggered me was, it wasn't just a change for all of your employees to learn how to communicate. How I listened to you, like, in order for them to be heard, there has to be someone on the other end of that hearing, right? And that, like, that's what I'm noticing is how your team changed as well to create a space for them to be heard. So just celebrate that with you to create that trust.
Yeah, I would say, I think the biggest thing for me, there was people that have worked for us for a really long time that I love dearly, and the narrative is always, well, wrong person. In EOS, there's a thing called right person, right seat, or wrong person, right seat, and there's three places that you make that assessment. Do they want it? Do they get it? And do they have the capability to do it? And I would hear people go straight to wrong person, wrong person, wrong person, and they didn't always go to the qualification part of it. Like, I think they want it. I'm pretty sure they have the capacity. They might not get it. And maybe that's where we have to come in. And that's where this Macklin with EOS can kind of work, because it sort of can sit on top of one another and augment and help. Well, maybe it's nobody believes it. Maybe they don't believe in themselves. Maybe there's a trust issue and they're scared to speak up because they don't want to get in trouble. And I started to see that when we were working with your team start to melt away. And some of those people that were like, they're never going to change, they're never going to get better, and they basically were just getting marginalized into roles. I was accepting it too. Okay, I don't know, I guess so. I don't really work with that person. All of a sudden, they're leading workshops. So, like, wow, how about that? They're leaders.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Mike, so there's great stories. Thank you for sharing those. And great for all the people who accomplished those things.
Mm-hmm.
Without any names, was there somebody who, like, they were in the wrong place? They needed to move on.
Actually, I have a really, this is a great question. I believe that since the closures, we had to lay a lot of people off, and we had to put people kind of in, I don't know the exact legal term, but it's like, listen, we don't have anything for you now, but we'll bring you back as soon as we're reopened. I heard there was as many as 10 lawsuits that came out of that for us. And I don't know who the people were exactly, but when the conversation came up, what I listened, Ron, was like, we kept trying to help them, and they just didn't belong here. Like, they weren't satisfied, they weren't happy, we didn't have a place for them, and we kept trying to find something for them to do. And it reminded me of a story you had shared where you had a similar situation with someone that you kept trying to find something for them, and they weren't they later came on after they left and think, that was the worst time of my life.
Yep.
I think that's what these 10 lawsuits really were, was they should have just moved on, and we kept trying to create a situation for them that we felt good about, but they weren't satisfied in it.
Yeah, I don't want to step over that, Mike, because the story that I lived through, I had a story that I was really helping this person.
Yeah.
I was going to, because how do you get a job if you're unemployed, right? You left with unemployment so I could go find a job, right? And wasn't a bad guy. We didn't have a job for him. And he stayed there for about 8 weeks. And then we bumped into him like 4 months later. I woke up and say, I ran an experiment with you to let you stay around and just be there, right? Not doing anything. What was that like? And he just looked at me and goes, I really appreciate what you did, but that was the worst 8 weeks of my life. I didn't belong. I didn't have anything to do. It was miserable.
Yeah.
I go, thank you. And I apologize, but thank you for letting me know.
And I am hearing that from people now that we're trying to, like, they're capable, they've got knowledge, skills, but they're like, what's my role right now? Because everything's been turned upside down with this changes. And then the person will get a role, but the person they're reporting to doesn't really feel comfortable with them in the role. And then there's a battle, and there's not trust, and it's there's still a lot to work out. But I'm not like, I'm listening to it differently. Like, I'm a different observer of the situation thanks to our work together. And the US has helped a lot too. And there's a lot of other background too. But I think, like, predominantly, I would give you the most credit, Ron. It's like, I'm listening to it going, oh, okay, they're scared. Oh, okay. They don't believe in themselves. Oh, got it. No one's tossing lines. Oh, they only know how to throw rocks. They're putting up shields. And I can sort of see it happening and have conversations. And, we have, we've talked about it before. We've got a great COO that has a lot of background in team building. And he's able to see it from a different set of practices and backgrounds and experiences in the restaurant industry, where it's like, you ever have this sort of, like, I don't know, is it dysfunction? I'm not sure. And he goes, oh yeah, I worked at a chain that they sent me to the regions. The whole region was like that. And I think, I got everybody on the same page. People will leave. They're not comfortable. And then when I left, it was a big happy team and everybody was functioning. Goes, this is nothing. Okay. That's, it's like a big deal to me.
Yeah, Mike, the story that I hold in my head is that each person, like, has a philosophy, but it's not like fixed and permanent. It's like, I make up what is a good life for me, right? And it changes. Like, so what was a good life for me at 25 is not the same as 58. My philosophies change. And when you look at a culture, you gather up all the individuals' philosophies and put them together, and that's your culture.
Yeah.
That's a summation of all of those things. And when you have somebody whose philosophies don't line up, it's miserable for them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They can't contribute. They're not, people don't get excited when they're there because their philosophy's different. Not bad.
It's different.
Different. And one of the stories that's helped me through my career is, I want to help people find a place where they fit in. And if they don't fit in here and they don't have the courage to quit on their own, I may be the one that has to be courageous.
Fire.
To fire them. Not like mean, but like, in a way, loving.
You're setting them free.
I'm setting them free to go find places. And I've had people who have called up 6 months, a year later, gone to the HR person, goes, I'm really glad you let me go. I would have never had the courage to go do it myself, but I am so much happier now.
That's great.
So finding the right place for your philosophy to fit in as your philosophy changes, not like it's fixed and like permanent, but as it changes, you fit in, you can add to it, and you can grow with the group. And when you get the right group, beautiful.
Yeah. I would say what I'm noticing right now, in both of our main locations that we now have open, our two primary ones. I can't speak too much to the third. I guess that's just because I haven't looked at it. But I'm getting reports, and I'm seeing it myself, that these are two different teams. The cultures are different, because you have one where people have been with us 10, 20, 30 years, and one where it's new. A lot of them are college kids. They're there temporarily, and they're working hard. But in both cases, they love what they're doing. Customer responses are fantastic. The Yelp ratings are going up, which is like impossible. in my opinion, it's very difficult to change. Because people will read the bad ones and they're like, oh yeah, I saw that bad stuff too. It's hard to get like a happy one that wants to go to Yelp and leave a review. It usually is. But the Yelp reviews and Google reviews, they're all positive. And what I'm reading and noticing and seeing is, you have such a great crew. They're so good. They're so attentive. They're so happy. They're so helpful. And in some cases where people were accustomed to coming and waiting a long time to get in the building, and on our legacy locations, only to wait even longer to get their food, that's been eliminated. They're waiting a long time to get in. They're dealing with parking issues, but they're getting their food like on an average of 15 minutes instead of 2 more hours. So, and that's not me. That's the team that put that together, executed on it, and is constantly tweaking and refining it. I mean, I think we had 10. I'm kind of estimating, I might be a little bit off, but it's somewhere between 9 and 10,000 customers the week of Father's Day, and to our two new temporary location, which is a freaking parking lot with rented kitchens and bathrooms and generators and office space, you know, and bars that my brothers made out of old containers. So it's like, wow, with benches and asphalt. So
That's great,
so
Mike. I heard you say that wasn't me. Is that different than how it used to be?
well, if I'm looking at myself and my brothers just as an example, I believe that we had the right team. We had a lot of people with a lot of operational background, and I knew what I needed to do, which was I need to focus on my relationships with the politicians and the finance people, and like more high level stuff that I do as a CEO, like really kind of mapping out what the strategy looks like and what are we going to do in these different places, anticipating how the landscape could change in the economy and politics that could influence what we were trying to do. Like I had a bigger role, whereas I don't think they knew what to do except to go in there and drill umbrellas into the ground and move tables around and figure out how to hook up, propane in a kitchen. And they're great at that stuff. I mean, they're very mechanically hands-on operations labor guys. But I also noticed that like one of my brothers couldn't walk for 2 days after that. It's like you could do it, but there's a sacrifice to it. But that's where his meaning was. Like he needed to do that to feel like he was contributing, because it's like his lifeblood is operating the business. But I'm thinking more on the brand level. Like this might not work. What else are we going to do, just in case it fails? Because it's never been tried before. And then I go over there and I watch it. It's like sometimes I look at this going, and this thing almost looks like it's being held together by duct tape. So I'm going to keep working on like backup plans just in case.
Have you always had that kind of autonomy?
No, I had to build that. I mean, in the past, I would have been in there cooking fish and deep frying and barbecuing, and a lot of my background was doing that up until the pandemic. Well, pandemic and back surgery, I'm not risking my health anymore to do this. And what's interesting is as you bring in good help, like we've brought in somebody with a lot of regional operation background, working in restaurant chains. And he was working with our general manager at Legacy and our other newer Long Beach location. And what I noticed is the general managers, which have gone through the workshop and worked with y'all, both of them basically said, listen, we need ownership out of here. You got to get out of here. I need these guys to learn how to do this on their own. And when you're here, they're not sure if they should be doing what they're doing or wait to check in with you. So I'm like, hey, it's fine. I'm just came in to say Happy Father's Day. See you later. I wasn't critiquing anything. And I've noticed at least one of my brothers, maybe both of them, have gotten really good at just reporting to the highest person up. These are all the things I noticed that I want you to take care of, rather than going in there and meddling with it.
Ah, okay.
So I'm seeing that's a big shift. It's a really big shift. I got a report one day. I want to say it was Mother's Day weekend. It might have been Memorial Day weekend, where one of the owners just jumped into the bar and just started doing his thing. And the manager of the bar got frustrated and walked out. And he had to be told, you can't go in there. They have a system. It's working. Customers like it. They're getting served fast. Everything went to shit. What did you do? And that was I think I didn't have that conversation, but we had the people that we have that are having that conversation now are able to do it without taking away the listener's dignity. Like everything's appreciated. We're proud of what you built. This is awesome. It's just in order for it to keep running, we got to let them do it their way. That's the thing that happened is the day we opened, which was like Cinco de Mayo weekend, the week before Mother's Day. I was there, and I'll just let everybody be here and just kind of see and talk to people and touch tables. And there was a lot of empty tables and a big line of people. And our COO was like, we're going to let everybody in. Whoa, you sure about that? Because, yeah, I got to break this thing so I can fix it. I don't know what it can handle until we break it, and we're going to keep breaking it until we make it work. And so I left. I went to my office. I got some work done. I came back. It was only 4:00 in the afternoon, and it was completely shut down. I go, what happened? Oh, we broke it. We broke it good. We had to shut it down. Now the time for food was 4 hours long, and people were getting angry, and we sent them all to the other locations so we can regroup. And then we did a big SWOT analysis on which was I know what that is, but I know no one else had seen it before. And we covered the whiteboard. It had categories, personnel, operations, inventory. You went the whole thing, and then SWOTted the whole thing out, and everybody jumped in and got it done. And we've done that a couple times since, and it's continually improved the process.
What a shift in culture, Mike, to go from we're going to make sure we never break anything to no, let's just figure out where it's going to break and then fix it.
Even better, Ron, it's more like just shut up and work really hard and it'll all fix itself. And it was like, well, this system is different. I mean, we're not handheld paper tickets and like talk, it's not like this is your kitchen and we're going to give you some paperwork and you're just going to follow it and just get the food out. Even if it's the wrong order, just keep putting food out. We'll figure it out later. Customers got something. Who cares if it's what they paid for or not? No, that's not what we do. So now customers are sitting down with their phone and scanning a QR code and the food is being run to them. And while they're waiting for the food, they're ordering drink after drink. And it's, I tested it myself with our friend Albert. He came out a couple weeks ago and Albert's like, I'm going to do this whole thing myself. He ordered it. I go, we got all our food and beers in 15 minutes. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And they don't even know who I am. They called me Henry and they called me John.
That's great. Mike, you're the third generation. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the fourth generation is in there. Yes?
There is some fourth generation.
There's some fourth generation. So what is your plan or what is the culture for your next generation? Because I know you're going to work there forever, right?
This is the primary reason that I've brought on all the help that I've brought on, because my experience is most businesses don't make it to the fourth generation, and there's a big swath of the fourth generation that doesn't work there. There are some cases where they're like, well, I'm not going to work there, but I'm going to be an owner, so where's my money? That's a problem. That's to be worked out. It's like an entitlement. There's some that are they're showing up to work, and they're working really, really hard, and they're making the same money everybody else makes. There's no special treatment, and they're appreciative of it, and they like it, and it helps with. I think it helps overall with the entire enterprise, because people always assume, oh, you're an owner, I can't tell you what to do. I've got to be careful around you. And we're really careful. No, you can tell them whatever you want. Not my kid today. That helps. And then there's some like my daughters. One lives in New York. One's there right now, and I don't think she's coming back based on the call I got yesterday. And another one is probably going to end up there. I don't think they'll have an interest in it. So my intention and what I've been designing is, how does the business move forward if the fourth generation isn't involved? Or are we able to build it as a brand where there are different offers that they could lead it to? Like one of my daughters kind of acts as an executive assistant for me on her free time, managing email and calendar. So she's got a little bit of understanding of what the business is, but she's not in there playing fish, No, I don't know. I mean, we're bringing in outsiders that are professionals. And the way that I see it is, ownership at some point needs to just be more of a board of directors and not be operating, and hire professional operators to handle that under like whatever our vision and stand is as the owners. And I think if we can't put that together, it's going to be a real challenge to move into the fourth generation, because I don't know what we're going to be leaving them except chaos. I had this idea recently in the last couple of weeks that I'm going to stay out of the restaurant side and focus on our sales outside the four walls, kind of creating two different entities under the same umbrella is how I saw it. Because I'm like, I don't see a need for me to be in the restaurant operations. You guys have it all handled. You have more operators than you need. And I started, e-commerce. I started our grocery project. I started this web series. I have all these other things I started that have just sort of been spinning because they don't have the authorization or the right leadership to push them forward. forward. So I'm going to go back over there. I started them. I want them to be successful, and it would be a great backup. And our COO kind of was talking to me about it. He goes, the problem with that, Mike, if you separate yourself into a different part of the company instead of being the visionary over the entire enterprise, these two entities are going to go in different directions, and they might actually go in multiple directions. So I thought, man, damn it, you're right. I can't do it the way I thought I was going to do it. So I'm sort of redeciding how to help with one division without leaving the other one stranded. It's because like we have seasoned spices and different things that they shouldn't just be something you buy online or in a store. It really should permeate the entire culture of the enterprise. Like, I'm leaving, this tasted great. Oh, I can buy it here, and then I can click on this link and learn how to make it, and then I can order it on this website and have it shipped to my house, and then I can post a video of me and what I did, and you'll put it on yours. Like, all of that synergy is not, it's not quite there right now, and it needs to be. And that's really, for me personally, that's more my passion, is because that's where I could really innovate and do great things. I just have to figure out how to be there without leaving the other side of the company. And I think that's where the fourth generation either has something to be left to them or not. Otherwise, it's going to splinter and fall apart. That's how I see it.
Yeah, how I was listening to that is the synergy of stories. Like, you as the main storyteller, the historian for the company, and how do you do that? How do you keep people on the same page and aligned with your stories?
How am I doing it now?
Yeah.
I know what to do and how to do it. The challenge I have is technology. Because I try to at least once a week, if not every other week, do a short talk. I put it on our YouTube page. I put it on our Facebook page, but I think 10%, if that, of our employee base actually accesses those. So we're looking at like hot schedules, which hopefully we're going to have soon, because that actually is a tool where everybody would use an app on their phone to monitor their schedules. And if they can't make it, they're responsible for finding someone to replace them. It puts all the accountability on them, but it also creates a space where I can send those messages directly to everyone's phone.
Yeah.
So that's what we're working on right now. Then that'll be easier. Then I can speak those things. I can talk about what we're doing. It's great. The other part of the question that's been, I don't want to say frustrating, but a disappointment to me is we have this web series. It's won all these awards, and we're supposed to be on Amazon Prime in the fall with a new season. But I'm noticing, like, this does this thing in the show, and then there's the restaurants, and there's very little link that we can say that people saw it and came into the restaurant or comes to the restaurant and watches the show. It's mostly like, here's 98% here, 98%, and there's this 2%. I'm trying to work on a way that they become one, because it would be a much more powerful way to communicate to everyone who we are and what we do. So,
great. Thank you, Mike.
So, Mike, I know recently you were out looking for new locations. Like, so if we're like first question, two parts to this question. First part is, like, how many locations do you want to be at or in that space in 5 to 10 years? And then, like, what is your intention for how to have that culture created specifically for each one of those locations?
Yeah. We opened the newest location. It was such a cluster shtuck nightmare. Because I almost swore to myself, I'll never do this again. Oh wait, I said this last time I tried to open a restaurant. I thought we were past this, and what it was just we weren't aligned on what mattered. Like, we weren't clear on what the culture was. Everybody had a different opinion about who our customer was, what they wanted, what we should be offering them. And they were all in there dumping that into the staff who didn't know what to do with it. Who do I listen to? That's not the case anymore. And now with the COO that we've hired a year ago that has a lot of experience in running multiple locations, as we were looking at locations run, I actually brought him with us.
Nice.
And he pointed out, I ran these 3 locations here. I also ran 3 that are 100 miles that way and another 3 100 miles from there. I'm like, oh, or 50 miles. But a decent amount of space, basically, like within a 2 to 3 hour radius of the California coast. And I left it to him. I go, listen, I can come up with all these ideas and all these things, and we can find the money and we can get the locations. Maybe we can even get them open. But who's operating them? Like, what's our capacity to operate? You're the operations person, so you have to nail that down for me. And his response was, we can do 4 locations in 4 years with the team we currently have. And I wouldn't push more than that. And I would want them all to be between San Diego and, like, Santa Monica to Ventura. So that's what we identified. And we found 4 that we like. And we're in conversations now, like we're reaching out to them to see. And then there'd be a timeline to do that. And I would be content in 4 years, 4 to 5 years, if we had, we'd be at 6 locations at that point. There's also one in Monterey that we have to make a decision on, because they're like ready to just hand it over to us. Like, what do you need? Money, taxes? Like, what can we? So, okay, well, that's a little farther than we thought. But I could see that 6 locations in 5 years, and then at that point, I'm going to be close to 60. I'm not sure what I would want to be involved. Like, I don't know what my limitations are going to be at 60, so I'm being very cautious there to say, is that where you bring in a way to license or franchise locations so that we're not owning and operating all of them? The brand's strong enough at that point where people, because what we don't want to do is bring in capital investment when we're weak and they actually force us out. That's a concern. We want to be in a position of strength so we can make that growth play for outside financing. And parallel to that, I'm going to work on building the outside sales, right? The e-commerce push. We brought a really competent company I'm really excited about. It's like we have all these sauces, spices, micheladas, and all these different things that we haven't been able to really leverage to our brand. And then we have a whole web series that's being seen by all these people where these products should be there and be an opportunity for people to experience them. And then there's ghost kitchens. There's a whole move there where we can, and this is kind of like up and down in the industry right now, where ghost kitchens, virtual kitchens, and cloud kitchens, where you can go onto your phone and order a shrimp tray. Well, there's really not a reason you can't do that in most states, because the product is pretty simple to make. And as long as we have distribution through, like, a Cisco as an example, they can provide everything to these ghost kitchens in different states. So you might wake up at your house, Kansas, I want a shrimp tray today. Oh, well, look, it's on my phone. Boom, it's at your house, cooked, ready to eat within 15 or 20 minutes. I think those are all untapped for us. So
looking forward to that. Let me know when the ghost kitchen gets closer, right? So Mike, thanks for your time today. If you could share something with your family, like your brothers and sister and all that stuff, what would you like to share with them about, like, what you've gone through and where you're going? Anything you'd like to share with them?
I mean, I think the first thing I'd say is just how damn proud I am of all of them. And, like, what we've been through, what we've survived in the last 3 years, going on 3.5 with the pandemic and the closures, against all odds. We watched so many businesses disappear, and they rallied and got things done and acted as leaders, and really created some miracles as far as I'm concerned. So my thing would be thank you, and I'm proud of y'all. And also, I think we're going to do some really amazing things in the future together.
That's great.
Get warmed up.
That's great. Thanks, Mike. Well, can we go to a little bit lighter part of our show?
Yes, let's do that.
Ron?
Yes.
Let's. So we like to kind of poke and prod on our guests and what their favorite things are. And today, we want to talk about books. Okay. So, is there a book that you've read multiple times, something that really impacted your life? And tell us about that.
Yeah, there's one, and I was thinking about the other day, that I came across at a point where I had to shut down everything we're doing, and I came really close to bankruptcy and had to drop out of education courses I was doing, and really just trying to figure out survival. And it was the 4-hour work week, and I found it really valuable. It's interesting too. I find a lot of people don't agree with that, but I found it as a way to think about how to utilize technology in ways I wasn't thinking about before. That's one. And then I would add to that, which I think they sort of sit on top of one another, in my opinion, is who, not how, which I need to revisit again. And I referred it to friends who I thought wouldn't find any value in it and change their lives. I liked it, but then I got to go back and read it again. And the reason is, in both of those cases, it was really about what those books really worked with is stop trying to do everything yourself. There are different messages on there, but it was really about how can you delegate these things out to other people. And because of, we're not anywhere, like I couldn't drive over and see either of you today, but we just created this whole interview and this podcast, and there's a whole bunch of things that you could do with it. Right. And when I'm thinking about that, there was a time where the only way I could have a meeting was to be in the same room with people. And there's a part of me that's like, okay, well, where do you want to meet today? I'm like, we don't have to freaking do that anymore. We can just get on a Zoom or a video or whatever. So I think there's just a whole bunch of ways that you can produce outcomes for yourself that improve your life with much less effort than I'm thinking about, because I grew up with that hard work, labor. And sometimes I'll just sit on the couch and think, this is wrong. It's the middle of the day. I shouldn't be sitting here. But I needed some time to think, and I'm going to do it. So
Great.
Those two books are pretty influential.
Yeah, thank you. Ron, how about you?
I share Michael Abrashoff's It's Your Ship. And it's a quick story of he spent 2 years on the USS Benfold, which was the worst ship in the Navy. And he turned it from the worst ship in the Navy to winning all the awards and for that ship in less than 2 years. And the reason he called it the It's Your Ship was because when somebody would come to him with a problem, he would say to him, it's your ship. Right? What are you going to do? And they did everything from quit painting everything to buying stainless steel hardware to all kinds of stuff inside there. So it's a pretty easy, a light read. First time I read it, it was shortly thereafter. I actually bumped into the author, Michael, at a conference.
Wow.
And I had a conversation with him. And what was beautiful about that was he was so real. I looked at him and he was scared because he was getting ready to go and present. And he was scared. He was real. And I was going like, this guy that looked like almost invincible on the ship in the book, right? In Fast Company. Got an article in Fast Company about him. And he was just like us. Right.
Wow.
And I could connect with the guy. And well, it's a great read, a lot of fun, but there's a lot of stuff in there around being responsible and trusting and believing in others. It's a great book. That's mine. How about you, Deb? What's yours?
My latest favorite book is called Deliberate Calm, and about leading through the storms, right? Like I'm still thinking about all of the things that you faced with your business, Mike, and it's about being calm in those storms, but how to create the practices to produce the calm.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that's been very helpful for me lately.
I have people come to me, why are you so quiet in our meetings? I know you know what we should be doing. I know you could just speak up and say something. Why don't you do more? And I'm like, I'm listening. and it's uncharacteristic of me. I've had to learn that skill, but I'm staying calm and I'm listening, and I try to toss lines and not tell. And it's a skill set, and it's challenging, and I'm not good at it yet. I mean, I could be a lot better, but it is like that. It really requires. Like I've watched Ron's calm for years. I'm like, are you okay? What's going on? Oh, you're a little. I got to do
that. Thank you, Mike. Mike, thank you for your time today. Thank you for joining us on The Story in Your Head, and yes, thanks for being you. And
thanks for having me.
I appreciate you being there.
Thank y'all.
Yeah. Is there anything you would like to mention at the end of our show? Anything you'd like to tell about your new locations?
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
Yeah. I guess the best thing is just to go to sanpedrofish.com. It's all there. And then stay tuned because if things go the way they're supposed to go, Kings of Fish, which is at kingsoffishtv.com, will be on Amazon Prime in fall. It's all 99% produced. We just have to clean up the loose ends and hope we can get it all paid for. But it should be a lot of fun. You know, what's going to be cool about it is we had all these storylines that were already done before we had to leave the buildings. We had actually the delay with Amazon and some of our sponsors gave us the opportunity to go back and shoot the basically us leaving. So there's going to be an entire underlying story about we get served the eviction notice and is this real? And then we got to deal with it and how do we get everything out and how are we going to build this new location? So there's actually a lot of really real drama that wouldn't have been there otherwise. And there've been plenty of drama, but this is like more life threatening drama. So it should be fun to watch.
Awesome.
I'm not sure I'm going to have fun watching.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you all.